You timing my lunches now?
You've had a letter.
What's with the excited face?
Come on, just open it. Come on.
Been nominated for Young Funeral Director of the Year.
Yes, I knew it. Same envelope they always use.
Is that even a thing?
Oh, yes. I remember when I was nominated for a Stiffy.
I beg your pardon?
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
Hello and welcome to episode 264 of the Talk of the Street, an unofficial Coronation Street catch-up podcast that can confirm that you've never been truly at your lowest ebb unless you've resorted to hitting the dusty bottle of blue balls. I'm Gavin.
And happy birthday to me. Happy birthday to me. I'm not gonna sing anymore this song because it's copyrighted.
I know you have.
I changed the words though.
I don't think it's copyrighted anymore. I think it came out of copyright.
Did it?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
So you could have finished it, but you chose not to, and now
No.
we need to move on.
because the joke still stands. It's still funny.
Oh, we're doing jokes this week? Oh,
Yes, for my birthday.
happy my birthday.
You're taking me to Canada again for my birthday.
Just so ungrateful.
I didn't.
You're taking me to America again for my birthday.
Yes, but a very specific part of America.
I'm taking you to a very specific part of Canada. And I'm going to fucking leave you there. If anybody needs a ride back from Canada into the US, hit me up. We can share gas money.
I just said again. It doesn't. And there were no negative connotations meant to be implied.
There wouldn't have
This
been
time.
if that was the first time you'd said it.
I said this time. I'm actually looking forward to it because we're going someplace new. I don't know what it is,
No, you don't.
but it's someplace new, and that's exciting to me. I like new places.
Anyway,
Anyway.
how are you on this, almost your birthday weekend?
I'm good. The farmhouse auction ends on Wednesday.
Hold on, wait. Auction talk. We haven't had auction talk in a wee while.
Yeah. So I'm really excited.
Can't say I've missed it.
Oh, very excited. It's doing quite well. Nobody
What
has
is?
the farmhouse auction. Nobody has bid on the scythes yet.
On the what?
On the scythes.
Oh, yeah, I vaguely remember the sides.
I'm so disappointed in people, but you'll be happy to know I am the first and only bidder on the headless rabbit planter thing. So that should be coming home with me next week. I know you're excited. And you know, I'm working on the children's auction and I'm really excited about that. And we keep picking really good books for my big, huge book auction, which is the biggest auction I do all year. I'm really excited. I have a first edition of Tom Sawyer sitting on my desk at work as we speak. So it's one of the best parts of my job is I get to hold and to look at and see these books that I probably would never in my lifetime get a chance to see. And, you know, it takes all of my inner strength to not just sit and read books all day at work. So it makes me miss working in a library.
You absolutely sit and read books all day at work, don't you?
I know. Benny and I had to rush and pick up some books today, but other than that, I was working on board games. Lots of board games for the children's auction.
It's a tough life.
It is a tough life. It is a tough life, but, you know, somebody has to do it, and it might as well be me.
Indeed.
Indeed. How was your week?
Well, I don't have COVID, but I have something. So that's fun.
Yeah.
I'm feeling a little bit poorly,
Yes.
but
But your boss has COVID. I hope he's not coming into the office with COVID,
no,
though.
he's working from home.
Ah.
But I thought he'd given me COVID, and he thought he'd given me COVID because we were in a bit of meetings the day before he discovered that he had it.
Right.
And so I wasn't feeling very well anyway, and then as soon as he said that, I started to feel 10 times worse.
Of course.
But I've done the test, and I don't have it. Or I'm doing the test wrong.
Right. Or you
But
tested
there's
too
only
early.
so many ways you can stick something up your nose. So,
That's what she said.
so I'm fairly sure that I've done it right. But yeah, I was just feeling kind of cold air, fluey, and
Aw,
the air quality's not helping, and the heat's not helping.
no. Those Canadian fires.
But you know me, Helen, I'm not one to complain when I'm not feeling
No,
very well.
no, you're not.
I'll just soldier on and get on with it.
Power on.
Because
Power on.
there's no use complaining. Nobody listens to me if I do.
You sound like my mother.
But other than that, I'm fine. Well, maybe that's because I got to hang out with your mother so much last weekend when you were somewhere else, mysteriously.
Not feeling well. Had a migraine all weekend,
Yeah. Isn't that convenient?
and the air quality wasn't great.
Anyway, shall we preamble, my dear?
Yes, please.
Give us some of that maternal Corrie news.
Sally Carmen shared a cute picture of her and her dogs on Insta, and it was sweet and cute and laid back. She was wearing sweats. She wasn't wearing any makeup. Her hair was kind of messy. And she looked happy and healthy and just living her life. And the dogs were adorable. Unfortunately, some dude was offended by the fact that she wasn't wearing any makeup and asked if she was in a home.
What?
Yeah. Yeah. Like, are you in a home?
What, like your house?
No, like in a home for the mentally ill.
Oh, what's wrong with people?
They suck.
I hope he didn't go and see Barbie.
Yes. Maybe he was the guy filming Ben Shapiro barbecuing Barbies on the Barbie. Because,
We all enjoyed that.
yeah. Anyway, then the guy for some reason said that it made his heart hurt, which it sounds like maybe
What Barbie did?
no. Sally Carmen not wearing any makeup.
Oh yeah, forgot that's what we're talking about.
And she said maybe it's indigestion, and then moved on with her life. And the dogs were adorable. I may have mentioned that.
You just ignore shitbags like that, don't you?
Fuck the patriarchy.
Oh, just that guy. Just start with that guy.
Yes.
And he's part of shite. So.
Yes. Victoria Ekinoye is coming back to television after her cancer diagnosis in 2021, but sadly, not to the cobbles. She'll be joining the cast of The Full Monty Show, where celebrities speak frankly about their cancer and then choreograph a striptease?
Oh, I wasn't expecting that. But, like, interpretive dance, sort of.
Yeah. Yeah, but they do end up naked at the end. Or at least topless? I don't know. I'm very confused by British television at the moment. But that's what it sounds like. Anyway, frankly, I'd rather she come back and remind the show that Mary is a grandmother.
And that Jude is not,
A
and has
marine
never been
biologist.
a marine biologist.
Just the, because you never hear her say, oh, I heard from Angie the other day, and show pictures of the wee boy, or anything, and remind people that she has a grandchild, the way some of the other people who have grandchildren and children far away will sometimes do offhand on the show. It never happens with Mary.
Maybe it's just because it would remind Mary of the appalling way that she behaved during all of that.
I don't think it was Mary who... Well, Mary behaved appallingly to Angie.
Mm-hmm.
But let's all remember who is really at fault. Jude and the patriarchy. And finally, Jude Reardon, the good Jude, is planning a family holiday to New York, where he hopes to take in Little Shop of Horrors before heading home to shoot Series 5 of Brassic and continuing to be our very favorite Sam on Corrie. He'll be looking forward to heading back to school at this rate, where he'll finally get some rest. Because he'll be starting year 8, whenever school starts again in the United Kingdom.
I think it's September in England,
Yeah.
middle of August in Scotland.
Yeah.
I used to start on my birthday. In fact, my first day at school ever was on my birthday,
Aw,
and I cried for the entire day.
so cute.
I was 28.
It is never, I'm never in school on my birthday. And I was always so pissed about it because that means that I didn't get a birthday party at school and birthday cupcakes to share with my friends at school or anything special like a little happy birthday certificate at school.
Nope, it was my first day. We had just moved to Carnshaw, and it was my first day, age 5, at Carnshaw Primary School. And my mum left, I started to cry, and the teacher distracted me with a soap that was shaped like Snoopy.
Aw,
And one of my fellow pupils, Gary Webster, made sure that I was okay.
aw.
And funnily enough, Gary Webster got in touch with me on Facebook fairly recently and said, "You probably don't remember me, but we went to school together." And I said, "Gary, let me tell you a story here. I remember it was my birthday and I started school." I didn't tell him that, but
That's so cute. Was that what started your love of Snoopy?
no.
Oh, it was just.
Oh, would you rather just said yes?
It was just incidental.
Yes, Helen. That was what started my love of Soupy. Soupy?
Soupy
Snoopy.
sales.
Yep.
That's Corrie news.
That's Corrie news. An hour in the making. Now, let's see what people have had to say to us in the section that has a YouTube theme tune, but it's called Everyone's a Critic. So we heard from Daisy, first of all. Now, we were talking about the Barbenheimer experience that we did last weekend.
Yes.
We went to see Oppenheimer and then we went to see Barbie.
Yes, we did.
I kind of wish that we did it the other way around and we had more time in between. But anyway, we did
But
it.
I didn't.
And Daisy said, I did Oppenheimer and then Barbie, and I thought it rocked. Looking forward to hearing how your stressful weekend went. Well, there wasn't really all that stressful in the end.
No. We went for ice cream.
It wasn't all that stressful in the end because you removed yourself from it for long periods of time.
I had a migraine.
Thought the comment from Hilda this week was a great point, and add on to that point is that everyone else seems to be able to afford lunch at the bistro every day as working people, which makes Gemma et al. Seem even more poor. The proportion of people who would be using food banks or struggling on the street would statistically be much higher. I'm so glad you also thought that this week's episode, all three of them to be honest, was a shit show. Maggie, sigh. Toya, sigh. Stephen, sigh. Max, sigh. It's all a bit too much. I'm quite glad that Tim's mum has finally realised Stephen's a dick. Your chat really helped to get through this mad blip of episodes. Daisy, if you want to find out what we thought about Oppenheimer and Barbie, please feel free to check out the List to List podcast. Our latest episode, we talk about both.
Yes.
The Aileen wrote in on the subject of non-invasive prenatal testing. It appears it is possible to test for the sex of a baby via a blood test taken from the mother's arm as fetal DNA passes into the mother's bloodstream. It is more accurate as the pregnancy progresses and is used to determine certain fetal abnormalities. It can determine the presence of the Y chromosome. However, it is illegal to sex select, so would not be used or advised for this reason alone in the UK by the NHS. So there we go.
That is very interesting information.
And then Ellen on YouTube said, I don't know about the UK, but here in the States you can get optional genetic testing at 12 weeks that can also reveal the gender. I'm about 6 months along now, and I figured out that he'll be a boy at about 14 weeks.
Is Sarah 12 weeks along, though? I don't think she is.
She got her 12-week scan this week.
Ah. Yeah, but they took that blood last week.
No, they took it this week at
they?
the 12-week scan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was the whole point of that.
Ah.
So, lots of information about pregnancies.
Yes.
Thank you very much, everyone who wrote
It
in.
just goes to show how very different things are 14 3/4 years ago, which was the last time I was pregnant.
There you go. Yeah, thanks to everyone who wrote in. Feedback is always welcome. Send us your thoughts and I will probably read them out. Get us at thetalkofthestreet@gmail.com or our DMs are open at Corrie Podcast. And now we'll podcast for coffee. We're we're buying our own coffees this week. The Talk of the Street is and will always be free on your podcast provider and on the YouTubes. But if you think our show is worth anything more than the time it takes to listen to it, and you want to show your appreciation, you can buy us next week's coffee by going to ko-fi.com. That's ko-fi.com/the Talk of the Street. You can also sign up to be a friend of the podcast through the same link, where for as little as $2 a month, you can get a mention in the closing credits of every single episode. And remember, Helen, you can always support the podcast for free and get us in front of new listeners by liking, subscribing, rating and reviewing wherever you get your podcasts. And people have been doing that quite a bit recently because our last episode got the most downloads we've ever had in 1 week.
That's fantastic.
It's quite groovy, yeah.
Yay, thank you, everybody.
Thanks for listening, or at least downloading it and then deleting it.
Right. Or downloading it and then playing it while you're sleeping.
Playing it for 5 seconds, going, oh no, that isn't what I expected it to be. Then delete immediately and unsubscribe. Thanks for doing that. And now, this.
Welcome.
Welcome to Last Year Tonight with me, John Oliver. Just have time to quickly talk about a multiverse of dads.
A multiverse of dads. This is Billy and Paul and the other one, Gareth Pierce.
That's right. This was Billy talking about the abundance of male role models Summer had in her life. I was Gavin, and you had been up since 5 a.m, and it was your fucking birthday.
Todd! That's his name.
Yeah, we'll be speaking about him later.
Yes.
You're just taking child number 2 to the airport that morning.
Yes.
And we had a lengthy chat about how to transfer the monkeypox virus. That didn't really turn out to be a thing.
No, thank God.
Remember when we thought it was definitely going to be a thing?
Yeah, and yet this is the thing. All the gays are very, very responsible when it comes to getting vaccinated for things, and it was only available at that time to homosexual men in this country.
And for the monkeypox?
Yes, and so they killed it because they know all about viruses. And so we salute you, gay men. We salute you.
Moan the gays.
Thank you, gay men, for saving all of us from the monkeypox.
As far as we know. This was the last week we were going to do the podcast because I had my hands on 10 tickets for the $1 billion Mega Millions draw. None of my numbers looked great. In 10 draws, the number 1 featured in 5 of them. Checks notes, 1 was not a drawn number. Phil with 2 L's has yet another change of heart regarding Fizz and the annulment, and it's obvious that he's run out of ideas to reconcile with her when he tries poetry. Yasmin has her deerstalker in pipe, and along with her friend Julie and the library, she attempts to do homeless Stu a solid by tracking down his daughter. Despite attempted interference from Billy, Summer is determined to dump uni and find herself a job, but seems surprised when most prospective employers are looking for experience. Audrey hides her latest visit to hospital, but after being spotted leaving by Ed, her family wastes no time in becoming suspicious. Debbie is fresh out of money-raising ideas for her businesses, so jumps at Ronnie's suggestion of themed nights at the bistro. Tim is having restless nights, which means Sally's having restless nights. Kev is overwhelmed when his to-do list ahead of Abby's return gets out of control, making Jack feel neglected. Ruby is a gossip. Ryan has bad news about the prawns, and Walt Whitman's estate will be in touch. Our moment of the week was Phil with 2 L's reading Walt Whitman to Fizz, and our boring moment of the week was Billy giving homeless Stu a book about being homeless. And that was Coronation Street and the Talk of the Street. This time last year.
I'd forgotten all about that.
I vaguely remember it. What did they do that for? Homeless Stu was still homeless at this point, though, wasn't he? Or was he living with Yasmin at this point?
I think he was already living with
Maybe
Yasmin
living
at
with
this point.
Anyway, we will take a break, and we'll be right back with this week's recap. And we're back. Now, we are heading off early doors tomorrow, which means I need to power through this and get it edited and get it posted as soon as. So there will be, sadly, no time for any jokes this week.
We are already too late.
Best intentions. Shall we dive in, my dear?
Yes, please.
Our first storyline tonight is support Gripe. In the morning, Billy is keen to go to Paul's hospital appointment rather than attend a meeting that he probably set up about climate change and sustainability in the church. Paul, though, is happy to go on his own And who can blame him?
Yeah. Do you think people really talk about climate change that way?
The sustainability in church way.
Yeah. I mean, our pastor talks about climate change all the time because she's a badass, but, you know, I don't think she sits and speaks to her partner about how, words it the way Billy did. Probably not.
There's a good reason for that.
Yay.
He's not really a pastor. He's an
No.
archdeacon.
Right, yes, and he doesn't dye his hair pink and blue.
Well, not that here. At the hospital, Paul runs into Shelly again. Paul apologises for running off from the group, but as we suspected last week, she'd seen it all before. She continues to be a bit of a live wire, talking about death hacks and the best place to score some decent morphine. A real live wire. Paul doesn't really know how to take her or her gallows humour. She reckons she could get away with murder in her condition, and he admits to getting away with stealing a car, which quite impresses her.
Yes.
Just reminded by playing that music that Vicky Myers quite liked her Swain music from last week.
Yes.
Swain out.
Swain out!
Later, Shelly and Paul are still chatting. He asks her how long she's had MND, but she refuses to answer any questions about time because he'll just compare himself to her, and they're both different. She reckons it's all about mental strength and all that. And then Paul gets called and off he goes. And he's seen and he's out, and Shelley's still there. She asks how he got on. He says it turns out that he's been cured. She just never lets up with the gallows humour stuff, which is about wearing, and they chat about the tube that's feeding her. She reminds him that he might not need one. Not feeding himself is a line in the sand for Paul, it seems. So she tells him to get everything done that he wants to do before he can't make any decisions for himself, before his choices are no longer his, and before he can't tell people what he really wants.
And importantly, one of the things she mentions he should do is get married. Everybody remember that.
Yeah, she
'Cause
just-
this is important later.
Pluck that.
Out of the ether.
Yeah, just why don't you get married, not knowing if he is married or not,
Right, and
or has a partner, or
which way
anything
his,
about him.
which way his door swings.
Yeah. Paul gets back to the street and immediately runs into Billy. Paul talks about his chat with Shelly and how that cleared his head on a few things, and there's something he wants to ask Billy at the flat later. So Billy rushes home. Paul's not there, but Summer is, and Billy tells her that he suspects that Paul is about to propose.
Oh, his heart is all aflutter.
Yeah, this has turned into an episode of Frasier, hasn't it?
Or friends.
Summer squeeze and then makes herself scarce for Paul and Billy's romantic moment, and then probably their whole. Paul eventually gets home as Billy tries not to faint with giddiness. Paul is cautious as he talks to Billy about his question and how it will affect Billy and the big man and his beliefs. Billy still thinks he's talking about marriage, but what Paul really wants is for Billy to help him end his life when the time comes. Which is kind of where I suspected this was going
Yeah.
a couple of weeks ago.
Last week.
Was it last week?
Yeah. And I said, no, that just, it doesn't seem like something Paul would do.
The thought of it chilled your blood.
It did.
And it kind of chilled my blood a little bit here that he's already thinking in those terms.
Right. But it was also hilarious because
Was it?
the way Billy's face falls when he realizes he's not going to propose to him, that was kind of funny.
Yeah, because you've
It was-
had... Sorry.
It was chilling and funny at the same time, just like certain parts of Oppenheimer.
Because the question was, is Billy upset that Paul wants him to help him end his life, or is Billy upset that he didn't get a proposal?
Or both.
Yeah. I will, says Billy. No, wait,
No.
what?
No.
Billy refuses to kill Paul. That's what happened.
Yes.
Paul corrects the terminology and lists the things that he has to look forward to, and says he isn't strong enough to face those things. Shelly is, but he isn't, and he wants to go out on his own terms, and he begs Billy to think about it.
Which is rich, because I don't think he has the first clue about how strong Shelly is or not.
If the one thing that you can say about Shelly is that she puts a bit of a brave face on things, and she hides her feelings with
Humor.
attempts at humour. So maybe she isn't feeling as
Right.
relaxed and as easygoing about this sort of thing as she maybe tries to make out.
Well, she admits to him that she too is afraid. You know? Mm-hmm. He says, I'm scared. And she says, yes, so am I. You know? That's... I don't know how that should be interpreted as, oh, she's so brave. Except, of course, that she's a woman, so of course she's brave. So brave.
Yeah. Could have got Shelly to sit with your mum for a while last weekend. Billy thinks Paul is depressed. He says he's scared, but not depressed. Billy wants to make the most of the time that they have left, and death is part of life, says Billy, and he's quite right about that.
This is true.
He leaves, saying he has important stuff to take care of at work, where he has his monthly check of the right angles on the cross. Paul makes it sound like he's going to do this with or without Billy, and suggests they do some research together later, but Billy, he doesn't want to hear about it.
No.
With Billy gone, Paul vogels on assisted suicide facilities in Switzerland, where he then sees that they look for 15 grand to help people end their lives, and the cost seems to be the thing that's putting Paul off the most.
Yes. That it does feel a bit extreme, doesn't it? I don't think Jack Kevorkian ever charged $15,000.
Well, maybe they can choose how much they want to charge. Maybe there's not much in the way of competition. Paul goes to the pub to get wrecked on 8 shilling and blue balls. No one drinks blue balls, so this makes everyone check to see that Paul's okay in the pub, including Todd. Paul admits to what he asks Billy about earlier. Todd is shocked and says this goes against everything Billy believes in, not just because of his job, but because of his morals. He tells Paul to talk to Billy and sort this out. So Paul goes home to find Billy noisily laying the table. Paul says that he's changed his mind and tells him to forget about it, and he's not going to do anything behind Billy's back. Billy is relieved and says that he thought Paul was going to propose earlier. Fuck it, says Paul, and so he proposes anyway now. And Billy says yes, and Summer bursts in and ruins the moment.
Aw.
Then Paul and Billy and Summer decamp to the Rovers to announce their engagement. Privately, Todd checks on Paul, who says it was a bad idea and he's changed his mind, and it's what he wants now. For now.
Yes.
So this looks like it might actually be the first gay wedding in Coronation Street. If it happens.
Are we happy about this? We don't like Paul and Billy together.
No.
And granted, Paul will die soon, so it's not like they'll be married for long.
Well, do we want
But
this
do
to
we
be the
want
first
this to be
gay
the
marriage?
first gay marriage? One that's,
Doomed.
kind of based upon circumstance and stuff. I mean, I suppose that's a common thing amongst British soaps at the moment, that gay people are doomed to be unhappy. I saw an article about, is it EastEnders, where like
As EastEnders.
all the gay men and lesbians have horrible ends and are unlucky in love, and just nothing
Yeah.
happens.
And Emmerdale split up a couple as well, I think,
Right.
recently. I think it's kind of shocking that in 2023 we're still waiting for the first gay marriage to successfully get to the end of the day
Right.
on Coronation Street. It just seems that this sort of shit should have happened
Years ago.
ages ago. If we can marry Chesney, surely to God we can marry a couple of gay people.
Right.
But
Apparently they still can't get married in the church.
or they can't get married in Billy's church.
Right.
I don't know about the ins and outs of that.
No. It's like it's okay that you're gay and we'll hire you to do a job, but it's not okay that you're gay and want to get married.
But I don't
which
know,
just seems
We'll talk about that aspect of it a little bit in Wednesdays, but for now I think it's, on the one hand I'm glad that they're doing it because they really should have done it already.
right.
I'm not entirely keen on the couple that are going through it, and I'm not too keen on the fact that one of them might die the next day for all we know.
Right. Yeah.
But one thing I think we can probably agree on is it's probably going to happen sooner rather than later, because
Well, yeah,
they're
don't-
not blessed with a huge
A lot
amount
of
of time
time
here.
No.
So on Wednesday, at the God Flat, Summer is making suggestions of wedding venues. The best options seem to be Scarborough, or a zoo in Scarborough. Paul would rather get married in Billy's church, but Billy wants another venue and then a blessing in the church afterwards, because he knows his ancient parishioners will be up in arms at the gays or something, I guess. Later, the zoo is still the best option. Bernie comes in and suggests that anything good or expensive will have been taken up years in advance, and suggests that they go to a theme park. Paul is adamant for something that means something to the pair of them and mentions the church again, but Billy wants to check out other local options.
Is he secretly not really an archdeacon?
That's
Is he like Jude, not really being a marine biologist?
He is not, and
Does
has
he
never
just-
been an archdeacon.
Does he just wear that collar for fun?
Billy, what's your favourite passage from the Bible? Oh, the bit near the back.
2 Corinthians.
2 Corinthians walk into a bar. Why the long face? I don't know. No jokes.
Too late.
But it seems that Paul is making a bit of an effort here to...
Yeah.
Out of the two of them is the main driving force behind the whole getting married in a church idea.
Right.
Or getting married in Billy's church idea.
Right.
And Billy, without saying no or we can't do it,
Right.
just insists that they look at other options.
Right.
And he does it twice. And by doing it twice, it kind of draws attention to itself a little bit.
Yeah. He could get married in our church.
If he was real.
Right. Yes.
And lived in Eaton Rapids.
Right.
And neither of those things are
He
true.
could fly out. It would be awesome. But he's not real.
No. And that kind of falls
Thank
apart.
God.
Falls apart at that bit. In other news, Paul has invited Shelly over to meet everyone. Shelly arrives on the street with her PA called Cag and is introduced to Billy and Bernie. Bernie is oddly a bit standoffish though and makes her excuses and leaves them to it. Shelly is a live wire again and doesn't notice, but does recommend that they get a stair lift before they need it, which is probably good advice.
Absolutely. Or move.
Yeah.
They could take back that house that Billy was going to be given because he's an archdeacon that they sold to help refugees or something.
No, that was
Daniel's
house.
Daniel didn't sell his house, though. I'm pretty sure they sold the archdeacon's house. I don't know.
For refugees again?
Yeah, because remember, refugees were all the rage at that time.
Everyone loves a refugee.
Yes. Because you don't have to live like a refugee.
Right. At the cafe, Paul leaves Billy and Shelly to chat, and within a minute, Billy is telling Shelly about Paul's plans to end his life. Billy calls it just a phase, but Shelly warns him that it's not always just a phase, just as Paul comes back with buns and coffee. And later, Billy fucks off to work. They're having a meeting to discuss whether they should start pronouncing the P in Psalms. This lets Shelly tell Paul about Billy knowing about the assisted dying thing. Paul is sheepish and calls it a moment of madness. And Bernie comes in just as Shelly leaves, saying she's there if Paul needs to talk, even in a moment of madness. Wink, wink. Nice woman, says Bernie.
Yes.
And that's as far as we get with that this week.
Yes. I like Shelly.
Yeah, she's a live wire.
You keep saying that like it's a bad thing.
No, just... she's always on. I don't know if I like people that are always on.
Well, some people have to always be on.
It reminds me of my cousin who's just like, oh, just take a breather for fuck's sake.
Wait, which cousin?
I don't want to say. No, it's just... sometimes your face gets sore from smiling. You know what I mean?
Yes. You've met my family.
I did. And I'm not going to make another joke about it. I think I've done that enough. Well, I'm trying to figure out how I feel about this storyline this week. And I think maybe all's well that ends well is the best I can offer.
Right.
I don't like the idea of I don't like the euthanasia
No.
idea at all. And I don't think it's going to happen, but...
No. It's an interesting...
well, it is interesting, but...
it's an interesting thing to bring up in a soap opera.
It is not Coronation Street's job to mollycoddle people with motor neuron disease.
No.
But I worry about the message that some of this is given out.
Right.
And I'm sure it's all been very well researched.
Right.
And it's been planned and thought about and checked and stuff like that. And I'm sure people do have these thoughts. They must
Right.
do.
Of course.
But I think you kind of really need to nip this in the bud for something that's getting shown to so many people.
Right. Yeah. Because you do have to be cautious when it comes to stories involving suicide, assisted or not.
Right.
You know, because you don't want a situation like with that what was that name of that teenage show with the suicide?
Oh, 13 Reasons Why.
Yes. Yeah, because that, apparently, I didn't see it.
I did.
You did.
Yeah, I quite enjoyed it.
Apparently, for some people, it gave the wrong message when it came to suicide.
The camera lingered very, very inappropriately on the moment.
Right.
That I think they ended up cutting out off that episode following complaints because it really was a bit too much. But
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think what they were trying to do was worthy, but it's when a lot of thing balances very,
Right.
very precariously from
Right.
one mood to another sort of thing. You just need to be cautious.
You need to
of-
tread lightly, yeah.
and maybe that's the point of having Shelley there as being someone who seems to have made her peace with certain aspects of it and
Right.
is able to give her opinion and her.
And it's so
and
very
if you-
strong.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe that kind of they cancel each other out maybe a little bit. I don't know. I have my reservations about the wedding. I also have my reservations of how quickly Paul got talked into it.
I kind of feel bad for Billy because he was just saying, it didn't seem like he was fishing for it.
Really?
It felt like he was just saying, I was disappointed because I was expecting this and this didn't happen. Oh, well, let's move on. And he's like, no, wait, let's just do it.
Because Shelley hadn't planted that seed.
And yet she had. Well, you think that she had. This is the thing. This is the thing. She mentions marriage like in the very beginning. And see, I hate it when shows do this sort of thing where it plants this idea in the audience's head as well, just by one offhand remark. And so we're all kind of thinking the same thing Billy's thinking. And then it just completely 180s into, I would like you to assist my suicide.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think that was part of my problem with it, is that the show very intentionally makes you think he's going to propose. And then it's this awful, really heavy thing
Right.
that is made less awful by Billy's face.
Yeah, Billy's
and
face was a picture.
it should remain an awful thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I shouldn't find that scene funny. I find that scene hilarious.
Well, it was the kind of the Frasier sort of
Right.
farcical. I think somebody's thinking one thing, but they're thinking essentially the opposite.
Right, yeah. And yet it's assisted suicide, so maybe that shouldn't be
Assisted
farcical.
suicide and marriage. But you're right, because Shelley mentions marriage.
Right.
At no point does she mention assisted suicide.
No.
In fact, Paul's train of thought that led him to assisted suicide seems to have been a little confused, because all Shelley really said was make sure you take care of all the things you need to take care of
Right.
before you can't tell people what you want to do.
Right. And he's like, well, you know, I don't want to get, but it also sounds like he wants this to happen before he gets to that point. You know?
Yeah. He has a very clear line in the sand of, I guess this is maybe all the things that you think of immediately, like not being able to feed yourself, not being able to go to the bathroom on your own, and not being able to talk. I mean, those are the things that kind of leap into your head. And maybe he is thinking about it a bit too much. But I don't think he's kind of talking it out with anybody. He's just kind of came to this conclusion on his own. But then she says at the end, you know, if you want to talk about any of this sort of thing, wink, wink, let me know. So I don't know if she has maybe some clearer thoughts on this, or
Right.
has some advice for him on how to go about this sort of thing.
I don't know. You know, with the exception of the, you know, can no longer talk and essentially be trapped in your body part. You know, the whole feeding and the whole toilet thing, we all get there eventually in the end, don't we? Whether we have MND or not. That's kind of part of life, and it's part of the whole being able to take care of your partner sort of thing. I don't think Billy would mind helping Paul to the toilet or feeding him. I think Paul minds it, but I think he minds it because he doesn't want to be a burden
Right.
to anyone.
Paul would happily do it for Billy, but doesn't
Right.
want Billy to have to do it for him.
Right. Yeah. It's a little bit of that whole stiff upper lip thing. So I don't know. It kind of bums me out. And also, the way MND works, he could die before any of that happens.
Right.
Like Shelly points out, everybody gets the disease kind of differently. Mm-hmm. He may have, there's no set time limit.
Yeah, I thought that was a great bit when she says, let's not be talking about time here.
Right.
This is not a good conversation.
No. I don't know. I have very mixed feelings about this, about all of it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, let's move on to one where maybe our feelings are a little clearer and talk about the business graduate. On Monday at Dev's, he's given product and grocer crash course to Aadi and Asha. He thinks these are measures Aadi should be aware of if he's going to be a corporate elite. Aadi tries to point out that he's just a chauffeur, but Dev doesn't care and keeps his chat going. Dev this week is 1,000,000% Dev.
Yes, he is 1,000% Dev.
Oh, just 1,000?
1,000 million trillion.
There we go.
Billion.
Later, Aadi meets up with Courtney Boobs at the bistro. She's keen to call their meeting a date and even keener to get her hold of him again. He says he regrets what they did and it must never happen again, so she starts wanking him off under the table when Amy comes in.
I thought it was just her foot.
No, her hand goes to his...
What the fuck? Mm-hmm. What the fuck is wrong with this woman?
He's terrified
Yes.
and telling her not to do this.
Right.
And she's doing it anyway.
She's getting off on it. It's a power trip, 100%.
Aadi and his boner introduce Amy to Courtney Boobs, but then Courtney drags him away for that whole thing she mentioned earlier. Later, Amy has been sent to Dev's to grab a folder when Courtney Boobs and a topless Aadi run down the stairs. This is exactly how it looks, says Aadi sheepishly. I'm going to go now, says Amy, and with a smirk, she leaves. But she's very embarrassed by this and kind of shocked by it, and
Absolutely.
and a little appalled, I think. But
Yes.
back at
As
the store,
are we.
Back at the store, Amy says "wow" a lot. She reckons Courtney must be 40 and her husband is going to kill him. He's panicking, Aadi that is, says it will never happen again, and she promises to keep her mouth shut, but at that, Courtney Boobs calls him again, demanding some more action. So Courtney and Aadi meet at home again. She left her glasses in the bedroom. He didn't know that she wears glasses. They talk about what happened again, and he's worried about Darren, but she thinks it might make him notice her again. This is what we're getting to. But she promises not to say anything, and instead invites him to a Weddy County game tonight. Maybe meet up for drinks in town beforehand. What could go wrong? So they meet up in the Rape Hotel later, and wouldn't you know it, Courtney can't be arsed with the football game and suggests they get their hole instead. Aadi, who has been protesting loudly at her attention all episode, agrees that football's shite. And later, Aadi gets home, Asha and Amy are there while Dev talks about meeting Darren and Courtney and how Courtney stood him up and he reckons that there's some trouble in paradise there. All the while, Amy actions to Aadi that he has lipstick on his neck, and privately, Aadi says that he couldn't help it. His penis just fell into her vagina.
Yes,
brings
that's
us
how that
on
happens.
to this week's hard debate.
Hard.
Okay, Beavis. Aadi and Courtney, creepy or funny?
Creepy.
Creepy had 70.4% and funny had 29.6%.
Thank you for renewing my faith in humanity.
Overwhelmingly creepy. This is
It's so creepy.
awful.
It's so creepy and so gross. And the show seems to be playing it off as a joke.
It's playing it for a laugh, yeah.
Yeah. And I hate it. I hate it. I hate every aspect of it. It's so disgusting.
It was kind of light-hearted a little bit last week. The bit this week in the bistro was just awful.
Right. And
Aadi constantly saying that
we can't do this
saying
anymore.
No, to her.
No, we can't do this anymore. And she's not taking no for an answer.
And he's kind of cajoled into it, I guess.
Right.
But it just doesn't feel...
Still, that's manipulative, and that is assault.
And there's a huge abuse of power here, given
Yes.
that she's essentially his boss.
Right.
Or his boss's wife.
Right. Well, yeah, she's partially in charge of this whole deal with Dev and everything, as she reminds us
Right.
when she holds it over his head
Oh, yeah,
later on.
Let's get to that.
Yes,
So Wednesday in Dev's polishing his golf clubs, which
but
triggers
not like that.
a number of golf puns as he quizzes Aadi about rumours of Courtney's infidelity. Amy is there and takes some joy in seeing Aadi squirm, but Dev is worried that if they split, the deal could be in jeopardy. Courtney Boobs shows up at Dev's with a present for Aadi. It's a pair of Y-fronts. Aadi tells her about the rumours going around the golf club about her and Darren, but she is nonplussed by it all and would much rather get her hole.
Right, because none of this hurts her.
No,
None of this hurts her.
but it puts Aadi in a very awkward position here.
Absolutely.
Because he's worried now that the deal is going to fall apart if Darren and Courtney split up.
Right.
But
Or
he's
if
also
Darren
worried
finds out.
that the deal is going to fall apart if he kicks Courtney to the curb.
Right. Yeah.
So there's no way that Aadi can win here.
No. He's 100% being manipulated and coerced.
He's fucked in more ways than one.
Yes.
Outside the shop, Amy is still winding up Aadi about shagging Courtney Boobs when Darren and Dev arrive. Darren is surprised to see Aadi because he thought he'd be taking care of his missus. Aye. Darren and Dev go off to discuss marketing strategy. Aadi and Courtney arrive back to the shop from wherever it was they were. Aadi is wearing his new underpants and is finding them uncomfortable. He goes off to get a charger, leaving Amy and Courtney to chat. Amy does not like Courtney and makes this very clear when she just steals a drink from the shelves and tells Amy to smile more.
Fuck her.
Amy charges her, which makes Courtney think that she's jelly, but Amy calls her toxic and warns her to fuck off away from Aadi, who doesn't deserve to be messed around like this. And of course, Aadi catches the end of this conversation. But this does not sway Amy, who says Aadi is her mate, and Courtney is a manipulative princess who throws herself at teenage boys to make her sugar daddy jealous. Courtney insists that she's independently financially secure, so Amy adjusts her statement and just calls her a manipulative princess. Courtney and Aadi storm out. Amy was brilliant here.
Absolutely brilliant.
And you can see Courtney just falls into this routine that I imagine that she's fallen into plenty of times. You don't know anything about me.
Right.
You don't know what I've been through.
Right.
And she tries to barge past Amy, and Amy's like, you ain't going nowhere,
Right.
sister.
Yeah. And it doesn't fucking matter what you've gone through. You cannot assault young people like this. It's not okay.
No. At the precinct, Courtney Boobs is definitely the sort of person to complain about the same thing for hours on end, and is complaining about Amy. Aadi tells Courtney to watch what she says about Amy and tells Courtney she does come across as quite up herself and suggests they cool it for a while. This does not help Courtney Boobs calm down, and she storms off, threatening that Aadi will be looking for a new job if he's not careful. So Aadi goes back to the shop and he's not happy with Amy, accusing her of sticking her nose in and embarrassing him. Amy apologises but hates the way Courtney treated him as a pawn to get back at her husband. Aadi says that didn't give her the right and he can fight his own battles, thank you very much.
Yeah, but can he?
No. So Aadi goes home to find Dev frantic. Darren has called an urgent meeting tomorrow and Dev is sure he's going to pull out and they're going to lose everything.
But not like that.
Has anything happened to make Darren change his mind, he asks. No, says Aadi. I don't know what's wrong. Dev is, because he's like
He's
I
the
know.
1,000,000,000% Dev this week.
high out of his tits or whatever, is unbelievably distraught about the thought of this meeting. What happened to the calm, cool exterior of a
Right.
man who's had a business on Coronation Street for a quarter of a century
Right.
and owns businesses
All
scattered
over.
around? Somebody calls a meeting and he's shitting his pants. Oh, it's because he's high out of his tits again. Yes, that's why. So on Friday, Dev had a dream where Darren pulled out of the deal.
But I like that.
And Courtney was smirking at him. Darren saying that Dev knew why. Something to do with the golf. Who cares? Also, Dev dreamt about fucking Steve.
And also, apparently, Courtney was wearing cement shoes.
What could that mean?
I don't know. Like, they're gonna...
Throw her in the canal?
Right. Is she
Where-
gonna be sleeping with the fishes?
Not in the canal.
Is
she's
this
not.
a mob hit?
He also thinks that maybe Courtney is in love with him.
That was hilarious.
Aadi is sure that's not the case. Well, what's with the urgent meeting, says Dev. In the bistro, Darren and Courtney are meeting with Aadi and Dev. Darren and Courtney are arguing about a flirty accountant who seems to want to get into Darren's pants. The meeting was called for Courtney to go over Aadi's figures, and everything seems to be checking out. Later, Darren says that there's another reason for the meeting. They're heading off for the Caribbean, and they're going on a cruise, and they'll be gone for a couple of weeks. Darren and Dev head to the bar, which allows Aadi to suddenly become jealous, which is exactly what Courtney wanted, and she suggests that they head back to his place for some more of that whole action she's heard so much about. We're back at Dev's. Courtney, Boobs and Aadi are all over each other on the couch in the living room, and as they're about to get their hole, Aadi sees a photo of his mum. Eesh, that's a tough wank.
See, this is why I don't like this, is because they're trying so hard to make this funny.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's funny, right? You know, the girl wants to get it on with you, but the picture of your sainted deceased mother is smiling down on you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's either that or Jesus in the movies. It's either your dead grandma or your dead mother or Jesus.
Right.
And of course, it would not be Jesus here.
No. So,
Not even Billy has a picture of Jesus.
above his bed. Well, who knows? Aadi sees a photo of his mum and thinks maybe going upstairs would be the better idea. And then Courtney says, "Oh, and here was me thinking you're going soft on me," which again was an attempt at humour.
Right. Yeah. There's all these, like, the whole the Dev scene pulling out so many times in that other scene. There's so much, you know, ha sexual innuendo in this storyline. It just makes it grosser.
And Dev having a dream about fucking Steve.
Right. And concrete shoes.
Yeah. It's weird that you're focusing on that bit.
I wonder if that was improv, Dev's dream.
Oh,
if
yeah.
he was just,
I
you
don't
know,
know.
told to improvise a weird sex dream about concrete shoes.
And Steve! Why are you ignoring this bit?
Because that's the only part of the dream that makes sense.
Dev comes home, so Courtney and her boobs hide in the kitchen. Dev wants a word with Aadi, and you think, oh, he's found out. But he wants to talk more about his golf, while Courtney chuckles in the kitchen because this is hilarious. Dev wants a wine and is about to head into the kitchen to get some when Aadi says that he necked it earlier and sends his dad on his way to get more booze. During this, Dev refers to himself in the third person and speaks French. This gives Courtney Boobs the chance to sneak out. When Dev comes back, he's in a reflective mood. Sunita has been gone for 10 years, and Dev says that she'd be so proud of this incredible, thoughtful, intelligent, wonderful, talented and handsome young man Aadi has turned into, and also Asha. Dev finds a chain on the couch, which Aadi says must belong to Asha, and snatches it away. And of course, this is Courtney Boobsies,
Right.
which I presume is going to become an important plot point next week.
Yes.
And that's as far as we get with that this week.
Thank God. Why? Why? We're did they think that all of our complaints about how often young women are sexually assaulted on this show meant that we wanted to see more young men get assaulted on this show? Is that it? Because I hate this.
So many tweets that I've seen of people saying, we've been waiting for an Aadi storyline for ages.
Yeah.
But not this.
But not this.
Definitely not this.
Not this. No. Nobody wants this. Nobody likes it. What are you doing?
I really do hate it.
I hate it so much. I hate it so much.
And there's only so many Dev sex dreams about Steve that I can focus on instead of focusing on this storyline.
And concrete shoes.
Oh.
It's, and the way that it is so obviously being played for laughs, it's like, what part of this are we supposed to find funny? You know, and even some of the language in some of the promotional tweets and stuff.
Oh, the show is lapping this up.
Gross and disgusting about Courtney makes Aadi a man sort of thing. And it's like, vomit in my mouth.
Right.
This is gross and disgusting and at least 20 years out of date.
Well, it all kind of reminds me a little bit about the Tom Cruise movie Risky Business
Yes.
with Rebecca De Mornay.
Yes, Rebecca De Hornay is what Wayne and Garth used to call her.
And that was icky in 1985 or whenever it was that
Right.
came out. And here
Yeah.
we are nearly 40 years later, and
Yeah.
it's not less.
No, it's more icky.
Because they make him out to be this rabbit caught in the headlights. It would be one thing if he was maybe chasing her.
Right. Even that would be kind of icky.
It would be icky, certainly, but this where she's the one doing the chasing, she's the one that's coercing him
Right.
into this.
Yeah. The power dynamic.
Yeah, it's just so fucked up.
And the fact that he keeps saying no and she keeps just doing it anyway and then manipulating him with threatening this whole business plan with his dad.
And it is so
She knows
obvious.
exactly what she's doing.
Right. And Amy knows that she knows what she's doing because
Right.
Amy has read this book.
Yes.
And she knows exactly what she's up to.
She's unfortunately had this book read to her.
She knows that this is all about Courtney and Darren. It's not
Right.
about Courtney and Aadi, and he's just a sucker that's caught in the middle of it.
Right. Because it's obvious. It's also obvious she's done this before.
I don't know, really, the game, as far as it is a game, is pretty much over for the reasons that we've talked about, that Aadi can't get out of this well without
No.
somehow affecting Dev. And he said to Dev this week to, maybe this isn't a great idea going into business with him. And he's like, no,
Right.
no, we're full steam ahead with this.
Right. Yeah. We're too far in.
So when that is committed and all the mortgage and all the businesses
Right.
and stuff has all been done,
All of Asha's
Dan,
internet money.
Dan finds out about Courtney and Aadi. Well, that's the deal fucked. Mm-hmm. Aadi leaves the relationship. Courtney fucks the deal.
Right.
So how can he win here?
He can't.
Just by continuing and hoping that Darren never finds out until it's too late.
Right. And how awful and gross is that, and how up in arms would people be if it was Asha instead of Aadi who was stuck in this?
And that's a bit that I keep on
Coercive
coming
control.
back to, right?
Yeah.
If it was Darren and Asha instead of Courtney and Aadi,
Yeah.
oh, people would be throwing things at their TV.
Right. I mean, they're already throwing things at their
People
TV,
would be
but-
buying a TV just to throw it at their existing TV.
Right.
I mean, I've got two TVs there, and it's a wonder that they've both survived.
Yeah.
You had to look to see, does he have two TVs there? Yeah, he does.
Technically, one's a monitor for.
They're both monitors, but they both work as TVs.
Yeah. I'm pedantic.
It's episode 264 of this. just saying that. Let's move on then
Yes, please, because I just do not want to talk about this anymore.
to Tim's mum about the house. On Monday, Jerry goes to visit Tim's mum to check on how she's doing, but what he's really trying to do is nick Stephen's chips and move in on Tim's mum. She's flattered and enjoys his company, but it's far too soon. Fuck's sake, Jerry, really, have a word with yourself.
Seriously.
Meanwhile, in the hospital, Stephen is reading a book called / Burn Burn by Erica Von Davies.
Right, and he still does not have any scarring on his head.
It does, he has a little scab here,
He nearly died from a brain bleed, but he's got like a teeny.
but he's got a massive square band-aid, or plaster if you prefer, on his neck.
Does he? I didn't see it.
Yes,
How did I miss that?
I've no idea.
But on his neck?
Cut yourself shaving or something? I don't know.
Is that where his brain is? Is that how they get to the brain?
They famously get to the brain through the neck.
Well, I mean, Shona did get shot in the stomach and got brain damage from it, so
Right.
who knows?
Yep. Yeah, / Burn Burn. That was hilarious.
It was hilarious.
Sarah drops in to visit and bring him his PJs. He asks her to bring in his briefcase as he has a note of a better book in it. And he's had enough of / Burn Burn. At this point, I'm like feeling really bad for Erica Von Davies, but I looked up and it doesn't exist.
Correct.
This doesn't sound weird at all, says Sarah, and she agrees to his request. Back at number 4, Tim's mum has packed. she needs time to be Tim's mum, and she's going to stay with somebody called Sue. You know Sue. Sue from Scarborough.
Yes.
She needs to do some serious thinking out there, does Tim's mum.
She farms parsley, sage, and rosemary and thyme.
Oh yeah, and she takes it to the fair, doesn't she?
She does.
On their way out, Tim's mum sees Jenny and wonders if she should warn her about Stephen, but Sally doesn't think it's worth it, saying Jenny is with Owen anyway.
Right.
Jenny sees Tim's mum leave and asks a passing Sarah how Stephen is doing. Sarah says that she's sure he'd appreciate a visit and a bed bath. Aye. Sarah takes a cake into the hospital for Audrey as they all visit Stephen. Audrey is 83 years young. And here we were complaining that we didn't get to see Audrey's birthday last week.
Right.
And that's because it was this week.
Well, it was last week, last year.
Sure. Sarah tells Stephen that Jenny might be coming in later, and Audrey coos about this, but Stephen insists that they're just good friends.
Yes.
And Sarah gives Stephen his stupid briefcase. So what he really wanted the briefcase for was Tim's mum's suicide note. And when everyone leaves, he tears it up and then dumps it back in the briefcase as Jenny comes in to offer her condolences about his failed relationship, tell him that she never thought he and Tim's mum were a great match anyway, and then takes a lovey-dovey call from Owen. And that's as far as we're going to get with that
Right.
storyline.
Well, today.
Yeah, we'll come back to other aspects of this a little bit later on.
Yes.
So that's Tim's mum out of it for a while, I guess.
Yes. I'm so sad to see her go, but I understand.
It's good that we've been able to call this storyline Tim's mum about the house for about a year.
Yeah. We're getting our money's
It's the
worth
o-
out of that
it's-
music.
It's the only constant, really, that's been running for as long as this.
Correct.
It's good, but yeah, I don't know why she left.
I can understand why, because that's a tight-knit community, and she wants to separate herself from it until they move on to something else to talk about,
I suppose.
you know.
But the
and
fact
also,
is-
she's been traumatized by this man, so she doesn't want to have to see him.
But it's her flat.
It is her flat, yes, which we will get to later.
Yeah. So that means, for me anyway, she should be getting on to Tim to do what Tim does later on, and
Yes.
and that's her place to stay.
Right.
Which means that Paula Wilcox is in it for the long term, which I'm not against, especially if they make Tim's mum a stronger character again and
Yes.
not this kind of pushover
Right.
doormat that she's been for the last 6 months.
Right.
And that's about it. So I guess we'll move on. We'll come back to the other aspect of that. But we're going to move on now to Todd Stiffy.
But not like that.
I'm sorry, what?
I said, but not like that.
Oh. On Monday, outside the Undertaker's, George is very excited because he recognises a certain envelope that's just been delivered.
And also, he has a box of chips.
Todd has been nominated for Young Undertaker of the Year, which is part of the British EGOT. George reminisced when he was once nominated for a Stiffy, and Todd dies. Stiffies are not to be sniffed at, although Todd looks less than impressed. They're not called Stiffies anymore. They used to be was it a corpse?
Right,
Was the-
yeah, it used to be essentially an Oscar, you know, a very stiff man, but not like that.
Right. In the pub later, Eileen is dead excited about Todd's nomination and is upset when Todd doesn't seem to care, and in fact says that he won't be going. Eileen says it's a big deal for George, and there's been talk of a pay rise, and this gets Todd interested all of a sudden. And plus, I think Eileen knows that the way that Todd's character works,
Yes.
he's really all about getting awards.
Right, yes.
So on Wednesday,
Has a bit of an ego on him.
yeah, Eileen's George is defluffing Todd ahead of a photo shoot for the award ceremony. Todd is getting pissed off about all this and can't stand the fuss. Apparently Todd is against a woman from Rest Easy, the horrible corporate undertakers, which I'm glad that they remembered that was a thing.
Yes.
Glenda is in charge of the photo shoot. George seems to have talked Todd into wearing full morning suit and top hat. If it wasn't for this pay rise, Todd could see this far enough, he says, but he clocks George's confusion and he denies that there's any pay rise. Doesn't know what they're talking about. At the Rape Hotel, Todd and a ginger lady from Rest Easy are being interviewed ahead of the award ceremony. Todd gives an honest, heartfelt answer while the Rest Easy lady scoffs and shows her profit levels from her rapid, quick and easy burn and forget funerals that they're just launched. Todd goes back to the Rovers to chat with George and Glenda and Eileen about this interview. Todd accuses George of nominating him, but George pleads innocence, it wasn't him. Todd's still pissed off about the lack of pay rise, but has decided now to finish his undertaking exams. And George is thrilled to hear this and says that he'll be a partner in the business in no time. And this seems to give Todd a wee bit of a boner.
Right, yeah. Yes. The fact that that woman from Rest Easy was so very horrible.
I know.
And just the worst human being ever. Oh, people don't want to be comforted. They just want to get in and out. But not like that.
Right.
People want a quick funeral.
That's why we have
One and done.
The self-service checkouts have been introduced here.
So terrible. She should have had a twirly mustache.
Well, they made her ginger.
Well, I guess that counts.
On Friday, Todd is nervous ahead of the award ceremony and apparently has been practicing his speech in the bathroom.
Ooh.
He's been practicing something.
Yes.
Eileen thinks this is Todd all over. Doesn't want to lose anything. Back at the Gripe Hotel, George and Todd are nervous ahead of the ceremony just as Rest Easy walk in. The owner's name is Troy.
Because of course it is.
Because we've run out of men's names. We've got to Troy.
That sounds like the name of an asshole, doesn't it? Somebody whose parents have too much money.
What's
So
it
they-
short for?
It's not short for anything. It's just Troy. You've never met someone named Troy before?
No.
I went to school with like 3 Troys.
Well, I went to school with 9 Ians.
I went to school with 2 Ians.
So it's Troy, the owner, and Ellie is the ginger lass from the other day.
Yes, that was hilarious when Todd goes Ellie and Ellie says Todd. That was funny.
Let the best young funeral director win. What was the last one that we had at the Rape Hotel? It was the best young hairdresser that Kelly the Chin was about to win.
Right, yeah.
This year it's funeral directing.
Right, yes.
Next year it will be sausage roll eater.
Or best knicker sewer.
Oh, Sally, you're in with a shout here. We don't get to see the ceremony or the awards being handed out.
No.
But Todd wins, and George
Yay.
is put out because he didn't get a name check in Todd's speech. Troy also noticed that George never got a name check and calls it trouble in paradise. Todd goes off to call Eileen, which allows Troy and George to bicker over Todd's future. George thinks Todd is loyal, but Troy says everyone has their price. He's interested in giving Todd a superior role at Rest Easy, but George chases him off. But on the quiet, Troy slips his business card into Todd's jacket pocket, but George at the buffet sees this.
I thought he just left it on top of that coffin.
No, he put it in his jacket pocket.
Which, can we talk about that award for a second?
Please.
It's so big.
It's chunky.
And it's made out of cardboard painted gold.
Yep.
George says it has so much weight to it as he throws it in the air a few times.
Oh, is it like an empty cup?
It's an empty cup shaped like a coffin.
Wow. Made
Out of cardboard. They couldn't get like a little pedestal and like a little metal coffin. Like on a little... This is the best they could do?
I think you're taking Young Funeral Director of the Year a little too seriously.
What is wrong? Are the Spirit Halloween shops not open yet in the United Kingdom?
Spirit Halloween shops?
Remember, Spirit Halloween, it's like a joke here in America at this point because they always open up every year in like empty abandoned Walmarts and stuff.
Oh, yes, vaguely.
So, people joke that the headquarters of Twitter is going to be this year's Spirit Halloween and stuff like that.
Okay, gotcha.
It like zero effort went into making this thing.
Oh, yeah. An intern painted some cardboard gold.
Right, and cut it up like a coffin.
It's a shoebox.
It's
a gold shoebox.
It's a gold shoebox with nothing inside it to give it weight.
Should have filled it with coffee.
The show should be ashamed of itself.
Back home, Eileen reveals that Todd has won awards in the past because he was the last kid to go pee-pee independently at the ripe old age of 7.
Yes.
George is so impressed, he agrees to give Todd that pay rise anyway, but not about the pee thing, about winning the award. And then he goes into the kitchen and he seems to throw away Troy's card.
Right, yeah, it falls out of his pocket and he surreptitiously picks it up and puts it in the garbage.
And that's as far as we get with that this week.
Yeah, Todd was appalled by that woman. I don't think he would have taken Troy's offer anyway.
No.
So it feels like,
He is motivated by money, though.
is he really anymore? As much as that?
Well, it's the only reason why he's enthusiastic about the award ceremony thing until
Right.
he meets the ginger lady.
Right, yeah. And then it's like, I mean, I feel like George is doing himself a disservice because I feel like the only way Todd would take a meeting with Troy is the fact that George didn't trust him enough to do the right thing independently.
Well, Todd is in the situation where his mother is sleeping with his boss.
Right.
So it would be a brave move for Todd to turn his back on George, especially when George was, and has been a number of times, the only person who gave Todd the time of day.
Right.
So there is some kind of loyalty there, as George has pointed out. Plus
Right.
the fact that Todd, I think, just likes hanging out with George.
Yes.
So, and let's face it, who wouldn't?
Right. Exactly.
So what this horrible corporate Troy has got to offer other than money, I'm not sure.
Right.
But if there is something that's going to drag Todd away, money is probably going to be the thing. If something exists to
Right.
do that.
I kind of agree with you, but I think also the whole, oh, this guy left this card and George saw it and George took it because he doesn't trust me to do the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that would also be a motivator in this situation.
Yeah, it was a needless thing for George to do. George should have
Trust.
and told Todd about it.
Right.
Or just let Todd find it or not find it on his own. How often is he going to be wearing that morning suit and top hat? So, who knows?
Well, they wear it for every funeral, don't they?
I don't know. But we did get from not knowing that this was a thing on Monday to it being over and done with on the Friday. So I
Right.
guess that's something to be happy about. And presumably moving forward, this thing is going to be the whole trust question.
Right. Yeah. And it's also Todd finishing his exams and stuff to become a fully
Oh,
licensed
I would be amazed if that's mentioned again.
funeral. Right. Yeah. Like Asha becoming an EMT.
Never getting mentioned again. Who knew it was a thing? Who knew he was even doing exams?
Well,
It's never getting mentioned again.
you did.
Let's make our peace with the fact that we're never going to see Todd studying.
Well, we did know that you do have to be fully licensed to be a funeral director because you have to know how to like prepare bodies and stuff. So
No, really, because I'm sure Todd's been doing that. Anyway, we'll see where we go. Our penultimate storyline tonight is Pumpin' Ryan.
but not like that.
On Wednesday, Peter's back.
Yay!
And he has a baguette.
Boo.
And he's not afraid to use it. Carla announces that Ryan is coming home today, which surprised her that he'd be back so soon.
Have you met Michelle?
Michelle. Ryan's home and he's looking a bit better than he was when he left. He announces he has some fitness equipment being delivered to the flat later. He's throwing himself into getting in shape.
Uh-oh.
Because he clearly wasn't in shape beforehand. The exercise gear arrives later and Ryan and Peter start working out with the dumbbells. Oh, ball bags, says Carla. And she wonders if Ryan will be doing some workout videos, but Ryan doesn't think anyone wants to see his face. Ryan sets up the exercise gear in his room, lifts some weights and then checks himself in the mirror. Lift, brah? Do you lift, brah? Then Ryan speaks to a mysterious friend and asks for the next delivery to come to the Weatherfield address.
Right.
But yes, use the same name. So on Friday, Ryan arrives in from an early morning run. Good morning, Bob Ag, says Carla, and then tells him a package arrived this morning for a Colm McSweeney.
The most made-up name ever.
Who looked up random Irish names on Google? She wants to take it to the post office, but Ryan, I'll take care of that, he says. And number 1, Daniel has lost his pants, but has found Tracy's bra. Daisy thinks that he knows too much about his family's underwear as he holds up a pair of massive underpants that apparently are Steve's.
Yay.
Daniel's more determined than ever now to find a place to live away from number 1.
Daniel, did you remember that you own a house?
Well, I was grateful this gets a mention in a couple of scenes' time. Yasmin meets Ryan on the street and wants to talk to him about Ireland. He doesn't seem able to tell her anything. Then Daisy comes round the corner surprised to see him. She wants to chat, but he says he's in a rush. Jenny, who is out washing the Rover's windows, notices this brief exchange. In the pub later, Jenny and Daisy are talking about why they don't move into Daniel's mum's house, and we're reminded of the refugee situation. Daisy mentions that if they do sell the house, and the refugees that are currently in it, they would want to stay in the area. Because they want to stay next to Bertie and Ken.
Well,
And me, says Jenny.
I would assume that Bertie would go with them no matter where they moved.
Well, they need to stay in the area for Bertie.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because Bertie has such a close-knit
Relationship with all of these other people who are raising him while Daniel and Daisy go on with their lives.
A network of babysitters. Yeah.
Right.
Discussion turns to Ryan, who Daisy thinks will never forgive her. Jenny tells her that they were such good friends. It's such a terrible shame that you had to be a terrible cow to him. Back home, Ryan tears open the package for comb whatever, and lo and behold, it's full of steroids that he proceeds to jab into his arse.
Yes.
And later, Ryan is lifting bra when Daisy calls, asking to be buzzed up. Ryan is quite rude, asking if she's Daisy or Crystal or Evelyn today, but then buzzes her up anyway, just so he can be ruder to her face to face. She missed him, but Ryan doesn't think anything's changed and doesn't want to hear her excuses. He calls her a conniving witch and then throws her out, then gets back to his rep's bra. After the sexual assault, the catfishing, and the gaslighting, maybe just leave him alone, Daisy.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Because now he has roid rage as well.
Yeah, which has taken hold rather quickly.
Yes.
I mean, he's angry,
Right.
but he's steroid angry as well. I
Right.
think.
Yes. Well, we don't know how long he's been doing this in Ireland.
Well, he's been off for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So it's
And
2
he's
weeks or
had-
less.
And he's had packages mailed to him in Ireland.
Mm-hmm.
So not only did he get hooked on, he stumbled upon someone who got him hooked on steroids. He found a dealer who would mail them through the Royal Mail.
Right. I'm amazed that it's so easy to mail drugs round about the UK
And they
and Ireland.
and also have established a fake name for it.
It's this Colin McSweeney that I'm feeling sorry for,
Not getting his steroids.
No.
He maybe needs them.
right? Does he lift, bro?
Do you lift, bro?
Not if I can help it. Got my fives down there.
Yeah.
It's a 20.
It's a 20. You do have nice arms.
Thank you. Later, Carla goes into the Rovers for a drink, but Jenny quickly ushers her through the back for a word about Ryan. And when she gets back to the flat, Ryan is now topless lifting and then takes a photo of his torso just as Carla barges in.
Without his head.
Ryan explains that he was just lifting, brah. Carla tries not to be too weirded out by this and then tells Ryan that she spoke to Jenny and now thinks Ryan owes Daisy an apology. Carla's not Daisy's biggest fan, but Ryan was out of line, especially when she thinks of how happy Daisy made him even if she was pretending to be someone else. Ryan insists Daisy...
Which is fucked up.
Ryan insists that Daisy is a nightmare. Carla says she promised she'd have a word. She's had a word. The matter is closed.
Right.
And that's as far as we get with that this week.
Yeah, so we get a shirtless Ryan and we get a shot of Ryan exposing his buttocks.
His buttock.
So he could shoot
Just one buttock.
steroids into his buttock.
Mm-hmm.
So
He had a little bit of bruising back there, which made it look like he'd
he's done this before.
done it a few times before. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a certain part of the demographic who was quite pleased with that. I would assume.
He can make his boobs juggle a little bit as well.
A little bit, yeah. Yeah, I haven't seen people this happy since we had that shot of Ryan doing the little coy finger thing in his boxers.
Yep.
Yes. Lots of skin. Lots of male skin this week.
Lots of Ryan skin.
Yeah.
And the image of Dave fucking Steve.
Right, and Aadi skin, which actually I don't want to see.
No Aadi nipples.
No Aadi nipples, please.
They're no Tom Holland's, let's be honest, but
None are. My sister dated a guy who had Tom Holland nipples. It was just so disturbing.
yikes.
Yeah. Nobody wants to see that.
No.
Not even Zendaya.
I guess Ryan is suffering a little bit from body dysmorphia. Is that what I mean? Where
I don't think that's necessarily what you mean.
he has hang-ups about how he looks. Maybe not his body, but his face.
Right.
But I think he thinks he's got a decent bod or a decent torso.
Right.
And he's trying to
Make it even better.
accentuate that part of him. So,
Right. It's something he has control over.
Right.
As opposed to his face.
Because when the steroid thing got introduced, I kind of rolled my eyes. I was like, oh, for fuck's sake, not this now for him.
I also rolled my eyes.
But it kind of makes a little bit of sense.
I guess. I feel like this kid has suffered enough, though.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Again, once again, our complaints about how much young women suffer on the show, the message seems to be that we wanted young men to suffer on the show, and that's not what we meant.
Right. Because Ryan, much in the same way as Paul, is a character that I want to feel sympathy for.
Right.
And I do. I feel sympathy for both of them. I felt it was more difficult to feel sympathy for Paul while he was stealing cars.
Right.
And I feel for Ryan, it's maybe going to be more difficult to feel sympathy for him if he is developing this rage that
Right.
famously
Get with the
people
steroids.
can't get with the steroids. I don't want him to be somebody shouting and screaming at Carla, for example.
Right. Yeah. And you know that's going to happen.
Well,
And that's how Carla's going to find out about the steroids.
Well, that's kind of what we're getting to see here. And I don't know if Ryan was just angry at Daisy because he should be angry at Daisy.
Right. Yeah.
Or is Ryan more angry with Daisy because of the thing that he just injected into his arse?
Right. I think it's a little bit of column A. It's a little bit of column B.
Right. Because it feels like it's happening a little bit too quickly. But yeah, it doesn't not make sense.
But also, it kind of seems like the day he landed in Ireland, he started doing steroids.
Right. Didn't he hang out at all with his mum?
Maybe she's his dealer. That would be interesting.
Maybe she's Cole McSweeney. Yeah, anything that keeps her out of the show, though, right?
Sure.
Also like the fact that when we saw Daisy on Friday and she was wearing a lower cut top,
Yes, you
they
could see
remembered
her
to
scars.
put her scar
Yeah.
on her boob. And
Yes. Yes, I noticed that as well. And appreciated it.
And good for her,
Yeah.
not covering it up and,
Right.
and just fuck it, right?
Yeah.
Quite right.
Yes.
Alrighty, moving on to our final storyline tonight is panic at the lawyer's office. On Monday,
AKA the disco.
yes. At Adam and Sarah's, she expected him to be gone to work already, but he's lingering back. Sarah gets a text from Audrey saying that she doesn't want to do anything for her birthday, and Sarah's worried that Audrey isn't being honest about her feelings. I think is a dig at Adam, not being honest about his feelings.
Right. No, that's exactly what that was.
At the law office, Sarah
Nobody really cares about what Audrey thinks.
No. At the law office, Sarah drops in to ask Adam out for lunch. He's still thinking of Audrey and the things that she's seen from World War to the pandemic. Yes, and all with the same hairdo, says Sarah. After some pressing, he admits to her that he had another panic attack yesterday and he doesn't know what caused it. She's sure that she did and apologises and gives him a hug. Later at speed dial, Sarah encourages him to talk to someone about this. Then Daniel comes along and Adam tells her that, well, he knows. And her nose has put out a joint that Daniel knew before she did. So Adam attempts to throw her off the scent by promising to go to the doctor if he gets another panic attack. And then on Wednesday, Sarah has invited Gail round to the flat and to the scan today because that's a normal thing that couples do.
It actually is.
Is it?
Yeah.
It's weird. And then to make it more awkward, Sarah insists that Gail changes clothes because they're going somewhere private.
That was weird. That part was weird.
Adam and Sarah have gone private so they can get a blood test and find the sex of the baby.
Right, because as we've established, the NHS will not do a blood test just to find out the gender of the baby because they don't want to become China.
Stephen is home with Audrey and he's making a beeline for the Rovers, much to Audrey and Gail's protest. Stephen is intending on living at the fancy flat because it's his home. Tim and Sally see him arrive and Tim is not happy about this, but Sally distracts him with a promise of breakfast.
That was cute. You can either go and yell at Stephen or you can have breakfast with your wife. And he says, breakfast. He's like a golden retriever, our Tim.
Yes, likes his breakfast, and who doesn't? At the scan, the baby is healthy and Sarah threatens to give it the middle name Gail. The nurse mentions the blood test for the gender and also to check for genetic conditions, and when this is mentioned, Adam notices Sarah react like she's worried that her baby is going to be a short arse. Stephen goes to the Rovers anyway and chats with Jenny about how relieved he is to get shot at Tim's mum, which is overheard by Tim. "Enjoy your celebration, prick," says Tim, and he leaves. And later, when Stephen heads home, he sees Tim on the fire escape of the Redback flat, throwing Stephen's shit out onto the road below.
That's hilarious.
Sarah and Gail get the tram back to Weatherfield from another storyline. Oh no, it's from this storyline.
Yeah.
Sarah and Gail get the tram back to Weatherfield and see Tim and Stephen argue while it rains Stephen's clothes. Gail sees this and decides to fuck off to the cafe, leaving Sarah to help Stephen pick up his crap, and she offers him their couch for the night. But as she does so, she seems to notice a strange piece of paper in his belongings.
Whoa.
So back at Sarah's, she wants to know what the fuck Stephen's doing with her paternity test letter that she tore up and threw away a few weeks ago.
In the park.
He stutters and calls it instinct, and we see a flashback of the moment Sarah threw it away, and Stephen, who had been hiding behind bins listening to Tim's mum and Jerry chat, goes over to the bin, fishes the letter out, and reads it. But what he tells Sarah is that he assumed it had something to do with the factory, and he promises that he never read it once he saw the envelope. Sarah tells him it's none of his business, but she hasn't read the letter either because she's terrified. It's Schrodinger's paternity test letter.
Right. Why, if you've noticed that it doesn't have anything to do with the factory, why not just put it back in the bin?
None of this makes sense.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. I'm giving the show the benefit of the doubt by saying, why not throw it back away?
But you said at the time, she's only torn that up once.
Yep.
And she's thrown it away, and I was expecting Dee Dee to be
In
hiding
public.
to be hiding in the bin.
Yeah, which would never happen.
But you think?
She couldn't fit.
None of this makes sense.
It's so bullshit. But I said at the time, somebody's going to find this. Somebody is going to fish it out of the garbage for some reason. Somehow it's going to get out of the bin.
Well, okay, let's have someone fish it out of the bin for a reason, but can we have a good reason?
No, because there is no good reason.
Pish reason.
There is no good reason.
He saw her throw it out, which he maybe did. I watched the episode back. You never see him looking at Sarah.
No.
Because he's too busy overhearing what Jerry and Tim's mum have got to say.
Right. Yeah, he's hyper-focused on them.
But let's say that he did see it. Why would you think it had anything to do with the factory? She threw away a letter? Does all mail that Sarah get, or put that into an actual English sentence, does that mean that everything that she gets comes from the factory or something to do with the factory? No, of course it doesn't.
And why would, if it had something to do with the factory, why would she keep it from him? She's not the person that he should be paranoid about. And also, why? Just why?
None of it
makes sense.
There's not a satisfactory why
you
here.
fish it out and you look at it, you see what it's from. You don't say, well, I know this isn't about the factory anymore, so I'm going to take it home with me and put it amongst my belongings. Specifically, my belongings that will definitely be thrown out of a window later.
Right.
No, you put it back in the garbage.
Right. Or you put it in your fancy briefcase that you put all your correspondence that you never want people to find.
Right. He is a psychopath.
But this is just stupid.
Right.
There's nothing to gain from this unless once we find out a little bit more about the letter, remind me to be angry about it again, to talk about the unless thing.
Right.
So, Stephen says there's always options because Sarah doesn't know. Well, Sarah does know it. If the baby's Adam's, then she keeps it. But if it's not Adam's, then that's going to cause a whole host of problems. And Stephen says there are always options. There's always a plan B. But Sarah doesn't recall asking Uncle Stephen for his fucking opinion, and she doesn't recall asking him to fish out her letter, and she storms out, allowing Uncle Stephen to go on the rake around her flat unsupervised.
Right, yeah. Maybe this is the point where you
throw him out.
Yeah, you say, you know what? Never mind. You can't sleep on my couch. Go away.
Meanwhile, Adam is in the Rovers when Daniel comes along, keen to see the scan photo, which attracts the attention of Glenda. And they both coo over the black and white radar photo, and then Adam starts fidgeting with his tie and runs outside for another cheeky panic attack, this time with Dutch angles.
and fuzziness.
Yeah.
And were there heartbeats?
Oh, obviously. But I particularly appreciated the Dutch angles.
So dumb.
George comes along to take care of Adam until Daniel comes along to take care of Adam, and Adam admits that he's had another panic attack, and Daniel thinks it's time to get this checked out. Bottling it up isn't working, and he asks Adam to tell him what's really going on. So, back in the pub, Adam explains about not trusting Sarah after the genetic disease stuff and everything else before it. He can't confront her again, or she'll accuse him of not trusting her. But you don't trust her, says Daniel. You need to speak with her. Stephen finds Sarah in the community garden and apologises, and she apologises too, and decides to rip the band-aid off and read the letter. And it takes her a ridiculous amount of time to put the two pieces of paper together to get the results, and she bursts into tears. It really is Steve's. At the end of the day, Adam and Sarah chat in the flat alone. Adam tells her about the most recent panic attack. He tells her that he needs to see in black and white that he's the father, and he's asked the fertility clinic for a copy of the letter. Sarah can't believe this and wanders away. So, here's my staggered anger about this. The only reason for Stephen to keep a hold of that letter from a couple of weeks ago is to use it.
Right.
To use it against Sarah. Why would he want to use it against Sarah? But who knows? He has in his grasp the letter that says whether the baby is Adam's
or Damon's.
Is it possible that he's already forged this letter one time before to make it the opposite of what it was? Maybe it was Adam's, but he's made it look like Damon's because that's what she reads. And then he changes it
back to Adam's.
But why would he do that? Why does he need to have something on Sarah?
I think eventually maybe he would need something on Sarah because of the whole Owen thing. Like,
what does Sarah have to do with the Owen thing?
Well, because Owen is still an investor in.
I see.
In the company, you know, he's not buying the factory. Thing. Yeah, he doesn't have anything to do with the He's not going to buy the factory, but he does have something to do with the. What is it called again?
Knickersnapper. I was thinking maybe if it all came out about selling Audrey's house from under her nose, having something on Sarah might have kept Sarah quiet about it.
Right.
But
I mean,
this is clutching at straws, and this is 4D chess moves from Stephen that I don't think he's capable of making.
No, I don't think so. It's also kind of weird because it's like, are they having him do this and be kind to Sarah and stuff about all of this to sort of soften us on this psychopath murderer and make him seem like a decent human being because he's trying to help his niece?
Yeah, it's just weird.
It is so weird.
On Friday, Adam is wearing his high heels again and is clomping about the flat like a Geiger counter when Nick arrives looking to get Damon's name off the late license and wants to get in touch with Damon.
And he's in his shorts because he's been jogging because he's the athletic one in the family.
But Adam tells him that he needs to get in touch with Damon himself. Plus, he's separately very excited about getting the official test result letter today, which apparently he's got confirmation that it's going to arrive.
Woohoo!
So later, Sarah's taking a day off to intercept that letter. Stephen points out that Adam will just get another letter sent out and tells her to tell Adam the truth, but she says that she can't do that.
Because he can't handle the truth.
So he heads out to have a cuppa at Nina's Rolls with Audrey. She offers him her spare room back, but he doesn't think it's very befitting of a successful businessman.
Right, but sleeping on his niece's couches.
Yeah, and also he's not a successful businessman.
No.
He does think that a word with Tim might help. Meanwhile, Sarah gets a call from Gail to let her know that Harry had a fall at the soft play.
Oh no, soft play!
And is complaining that his arm feels funny. Gail's at the hospital to get him checked out, so Sarah now has to leave the flat unattended. On the street, she bumps into Stephen, and he offers to stay at the flat for the courier who's delivering the letter. Sarah already is getting bored of this cloak and dagger business and now doesn't seem to care, but Stephen says that he can take care of it as she slowly goes off to check how seriously injured her son is. In the Rovers, Tim and Ed are talking about Ed's 33rd wedding anniversary when Audrey comes in looking for a word with Tim, wanting to know if Tim's mum wanted Stephen evicted, and if not, maybe Tim should speak with her and find out.
And it was funny because there's a callback to Aadi and Tim's emotional affair.
Tim and Aadi's emotional affair?
Aggie.
Oh, yes. Meanwhile, in the factory, it seems that Stephen has got his hands on the test results later and is going to work on it with a pair of scissors, some Pritt stick, Tipp-Ex and a photocopier, just as the writers of Better Call Saul decide to speak to their lawyers. Meanwhile, Harry is disappointed that his arm isn't broken and he doesn't get a stookie, and he wants to go and get it re-x-rayed just to be sure. Meanwhile, Sarah has 8 missed calls from Adam and she rushes home. Adam, kind soul, has waited for Sarah to come home before opening the letter. She says she already knows what it says and asks him to just throw it away, but instead he opens it and reads it and apologises. He should have believed her. He's the daddy.
And Sarah says, what?
Sarah tries not to look like what the actual fuck. He wants to go out to celebrate with Ken. Understandably, she doesn't want to make a big deal about not having Damon's seed in her belly, so tells him to crack on himself. He promises never to doubt her again. And through this, I'm like, why does Sarah not come clean before Adam opens the letter?
Because, of course, she's not going to come clean before he opens the letter, so that he can open the letter and get the wrong information.
Well, because so the storyline can happen.
Right, yes.
But why wouldn't Sarah just say, look, don't open it?
Because she's afraid.
She would rather sit there and let him read that the baby isn't his.
Yeah. Why not?
Rather than say something herself.
Right. So she has a head start for the door.
Because she's already caught. As far as she knows, she's caught here.
Yes.
Because she has read the letter.
Right. It's
so stupid.
Yeah. Let's not try to find any sort of logic in here. It'll just make us angrier.
So Tim goes to find Stephen and tells him that he's spoken to Tim's mum and she doesn't want him homeless, so Stephen can move back in, but Tim's mum is expecting rent.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
Stephen gets back to Sarah's where she is super confused about how Adam is suddenly the father. You're welcome, says Stephen, and Sarah finally starts to put 2 and 2 together while Stephen heads off to get packed, saying that he shredded the original letter. Sarah decides to be furious about this. Stephen points out how this ends everything. You don't get anything without taking risks, he says. Sarah can't do this anymore, but he points out that even if Damon comes back, she has proof of whose baby it is, so maybe show a bit of fucking gratitude. She tells him to stop interfering in her life, and he promises to do that. Fucking hell, what does a Canadian have to do to get a thank you around here?
Right.
In the Rovers, Adam, Daniel, Ken and Stephen are having a drink to celebrate. Adam wants to get back in Sarah's good books and thinks maybe having a surprise gender reveal party will do the trick.
Yes, because nothing bad ever happens at a gender reveal party.
If I've read anything on the subject, gender reveal parties, don't they explode?
American ones do. And the show allows Ken to be indignant about another Americanization of British culture, and then he complains about proms.
Anyway, they should find out on Monday. Sarah, meanwhile, has gone to see Nick to see if he's heard from Damon. It turns out that he has, and Damon has agreed to sign over the late licence, but Sarah didn't come up in conversation, and he has no reason to come back to town. So back at the flat, Adam asks if she's excited about finding out the gender, a baby Adam or a baby Sarah. She checks her phone and sees lots of missed calls from Damon, while Adam thanks her for making him the happiest man in the world. And that's how we end this week's episodes.
Adam's going to find out with the blood test.
Right. So, again, Sarah's just letting this happen in front of her makes no sense because she's fucked 8 ways to Sunday here.
Right. Yeah. It's just, I don't know how she explains the Adam letter. My creepy uncle used cut and paste and a photocopier, like a zine publisher from the 1990s.
Say it properly.
No.
No.
To make a fake letter And that's what you read, but I had nothing to do with it. I swear, I promise you, I had nothing to do with the fake letter because Adam's going to believe that. He's not going to believe that. Yeah, she's fucked.
It's not going to make any sense when she tries to explain it now,
No.
which she had plenty of opportunities to explain it beforehand when...
But
For
she
as
didn't
far
know.
as she, but
she
as
was
far as she
confused.
knew, he was going to read Damon's name or
Right.
or not his name.
Right. But she's just as confused at that scene as he is. Well, he's not confused. He's relieved.
What she should have done is present him with 2 letters. This one says you are the daddy, and this one says that you're not.
Yeah. Which one do you want?
So now all bets are off. You either trust me or you don't. And if you don't, there's the door.
But she loves him.
Does she know?
I don't know anymore.
Because she's just...
I'm not I've really never been invested in this couple.
No,
It just felt like the show was like, well,
let's put the
these
two
are
pretty
two of the
people
prettiest
together.
people
Yeah.
together. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd said to you before that I haven't been invested. I kind of became a little bit invested when it looked like they were going to split up.
Right.
But I don't really care that much. I quite liked Damon and Sarah together. But
Yeah.
only because he was such a cheeky chappy.
Right. Yeah. And there was chemistry between the two of them.
Clear and obvious chemistry, Craig.
Right. Yeah. Well, there's not really much between Adam and Sarah.
Yeah, they're pretty.
Yeah.
They look good together.
They're pretty together. The height difference, I think, bothers me. Because she's so totty and he's so tall.
Yeah.
And that's even before you add his hair.
That's another 1.5 feet, certainly.
Mm-hmm.
Why is Damon so keen to speak to her?
Because Nick probably said something about her being pregnant.
Right.
That's the only thing I can think of. Is Nick said something about her being pregnant, not even thinking.
Does Nick know that she had an affair with Damon?
I don't think so.
Because Adam announced it to people, didn't he?
Yeah, but I don't think Nick was there.
Would any of those people have told Nick?
Maybe?
Surely. Because
No, wait. He does know. He does know because they had this blowout in the bistro about it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Nick does know.
Nick knows.
So Nick would know not to say something to Damon then.
And yet he probably did because he's Nick.
He looked like he was on the verge of tears again tonight.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Damon probably asked him about Sam and he started bursting into tears and just let it go that Sarah was pregnant. That's the only explanation I can think of.
Because this was the kind of saving grace for Sarah, was that Damon had no reason to come back to the street.
Right.
As far as he knew, his life was in danger.
Right.
He'd left, he'd turned his back on the things that he wanted to build up, so maybe they weren't that important to him anyway.
Right.
But now he's left all those messages. And of course, in this grand scheme of storytelling here, he was never not going to come back.
Right.
But I'm just wondering what sparked that, because the discussion with a late license when Nick probably isn't going to do it.
And yet that's probably what happened. Because again, nothing in this story makes sense.
Do you know, this is like something every week, because the Toya kidnapping last week made
Was so stupid.
no, not a fucking ounce of sense.
No,
And then this week, and we're just blindly carrying on, just ignoring that this is a thing.
Right.
We've already forgotten about Toya getting kidnapped.
Right.
Toya
Yeah.
got kidnapped.
Right.
And it's
And it was done
And
and
nobody's
dusted
talking
in less
about
than
it.
a week.
got that day, it was pretty much over and done with. And they're talking about the relationship.
Right.
We've already said everything we need to say on my kidnapping.
Right.
Now we've got this preposterous reason why Stephen fishes this letter out of a bin.
Which is stupid.
And we're not talking about that
No.
anymore.
No. No. Or the fact that
make
supposedly he had this huge brain bleed and almost died. And yet he's walking on the street and he's talking fine.
With a plaster on his neck.
Right.
That even now I think that's been taken care of. Oh,
Yeah. The whole thing's dumb. And yet, this whole Aadi thing is going to go on for weeks.
oh, probably.
When nobody wants to see that.
Yeah, the stupidity of this letter stuff kind of overshadows, I guess, what we always thought was going to be just a good old-fashioned
Affair.
paternity affair storyline, but having this aspect to it's just kind of ruined it because it just doesn't make any sense. I quite like the idea of just not knowing if it's going to be
Right.
Damon's or Adam's, but I don't want to find out at the 12-week stage.
Right. And I don't want them to have a gender reveal party because things explode at gender reveal parties.
Why do things explode at gender reveal parties again? Is it because people buy fireworks for them? And
Yes.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
There's nothing else that happens that people bring explosives to them or anything like that.
Right.
Or
yeah.
America.
Or
but-
they shoot a gun at a balloon.
and kill somebody.
Right. Yeah. And the bullet goes astray.
Right.
That sort of thing.
Okay.
They're stupid anyway because gender is a construct, and also, why? Shouldn't you be happy with a baby shower? And that's it? Why do you have to have a gender reveal party as well? Do you really want people to celebrate you more? What's wrong with you people?
So I guess we do find out next week if Stephen really has already forged this letter one time before, making it look like it was Damon's when it was really Adam's.
I don't think that happened.
I don't think it happened either, but it gives me a reason to think that Stephen had a reason to have the letter. But if Adam finds out that it's not, then what happens? Because Adam now knows that Sarah somehow faked a letter to him.
Right. Well, that somebody faked a letter, and he's going to blame Sarah,
Sure.
even though she had nothing to do with it. Is he going to kick her out?
Or is he
Somebody needs to think about poor Harry and his not broken arm.
If this was a storyline 5 years ago, Adam finding this out would keep it to himself. But I think he made some... he made it sound like the person who works for the gender reveal company is going to be the person who knows what the gender is, so they both kind of find out similarly. But a gender reveal thing isn't a, oh, by the way, you're not the daddy thing.
No.
So
it feels like he would get the paperwork and maybe look at it first.
maybe sabotage it himself.
Well, and also,
So the gender reveal is a picture of a short man in a sheepskin jacket.
that actually would be kind of fun to see.
I wouldn't be too disappointed in that.
No. God, just think about how short Sarah and Damon's kid would have to be.
Microscopic. Nothing wrong with that.
No. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. Just very, very short. At least with Adam being the dad, that kid would have a chance to be taller. Because statistically, taller people do better in life. Because people are always impressed by tall people for some reason. I've met tall people who are utter dicks. It's not a magic thing that all tall people are great.
No.
And some of them are Nick, who cries a lot. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
No, he's in touch with his feelings.
Yes.
He's in touch with a few people's feelings by the
This
looks
is
of things.
true. Ugh, I hate it. Hate it.
And then you
So
get the
weird.
prospect of Adam raising a kid who speaks with an English accent,
I mean, the kid's going to speak English anyway.
but with an English accent.
Yeah, they're not going to move to Scotland just so the kid gets a Scottish accent.
Doesn't always work like that anyway, because Stubbsy's kids had English accents.
And Stelly has a British accent.
She kind of speaks a bit Scottish.
Yes. And apparently that's a thing with Gen Z, is that it's a calming mechanism for them to speak in a British accent.
Sure. Oh well, that was week that was Coronation Street. Tell me, Helen, what was your moment of the week?
Amy giving
Yep.
boobs the business.
Courtney McBoobs.
Ha-
Both barrels.
Do not call her McBoobs. That's my name.
Fair enough. Courtney Boobs
Get in the business.
getting both barrels from Amy. That is our...
Moment of the week.
And your boring moment of the week.
Ken bitching about Americans.
Yeah, we came to these conclusions fairly swiftly this week. Thank you.
Yes.
Boring moment of the week.
The show's got to know that every time they complain about Americans, I'm going to complain about it.
No, sure. Sometimes it's right, though.
Oi!
Well, we've got Canada to go to again.
Again.
So I guess we better wrap this one up. This episode was brought to you with thanks to our friends of the podcast, Daisy, French Helen, and Pickles.
My favorite flower, merci beaucoup, and Pickles!
If you've ever
Forged a letter like a zine writer from the 1990s.
then write in to tell us about it and give us photographic evidence. We're the talk of the street at gmail.com and we're at Corrie Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and Threads. You can shout me and Helen a coffee or become a friend of the podcast by heading to ko-fi.com. That's ko-fi.com/the talk of the street. Check out the clicky section of boggle.co.uk for links to our merch store and YouTube channel. And if you're so inclined, please leave a rating and a review on the iTunes or your podcast provider of choice. And be sure to check out our pop culture sister podcast, The List of Lists.
Yay!
Thanks for making it to the end of another episode.
And also, if you have a Blue Sky code, send it to us, please.
We will be back next week with more
The Talk of the Street.
Talk of the Street.
Bye.
Cheerio.